Hey there. When you picture Greenland, you probably think of this huge, white, empty space on a map, right? But lately, this massive island has been at the very center of some big international headlines, and it's got everyone talking. So let's get into what's really going on up there in the Arctic.
It all really kicked off with this one. Kinda shocking question. A former US president was apparently serious about trying to buy Greenland from Denmark. I mean, it sounds like something out of the 1800s, but it made everybody stop and ask, wait, can you actually just buy a country in this day and age?
Well, believe it or not, there's actually a history here. This number, that's the price in gold the U.S. paid Denmark back in 1916 for what we now know as the U.S. Virgin Islands. And part of that same deal was the U.S. officially recognizing that Greenland belonged to Denmark. So yeah, that deal kind of set the stage for this whole long-running relationship.
Okay, so why all the fuss right now? What's with the sudden interest? Well, to get to the why behind all these headlines, you have to understand just how incredibly important Greenland is from a strategic point of view. And that value? It's changing faster than ever.
And here's the real kicker. Climate change is literally redrawing the map of the world. What used to be this frozen, impossible-to-cross barrier at the top of the planet is, well, it's melting. And it's turning into a brand new frontier for everything from shipping and resources to military strategy.
So what does that actually mean? It means a new geopolitical chessboard is opening up. As that ice disappears, brand new shipping lanes are becoming a reality. We're talking shortcuts between Europe and Asia that could save tons of time and money. And it's also unlocking access to massive untapped resources. Think oil, gas, and those super important rare earth minerals. So now you've got global powers moving their pieces onto this new board. Russia's beefing up its old Arctic bases, and even countries with no Arctic coastline, like China, are trying to get in on the action. Because up here, geography is power.
But look, for the U.S., this is not some brand new interest. They've had a strategic foothold there for over 100 years. It started with bases in World War II, and today their Patufic space base is absolutely critical for missile warnings. Greenland has been a quiet cornerstone of American defense for a very, very long time.
So, with the stakes this high, you'd think everyone would be playing their cards very carefully, right? You'd expect some delicate diplomacy. Well, instead, this scramble for influence has led to some pretty clumsy and, honestly, counterproductive moves.
This quote from the German Marshall Fund just says it all, doesn't it? This aggressive talk, treating an entire nation like it's just a piece of property, it was a massive own goal. It completely backfired, damaging decades of trust and pushing away a really important ally.
But this is where the entire geopolitical view completely misses the most important part of the story. Because Greenland isn't just a strategic pin on a map, it's so much more than that.
See, if you're sitting in a war room somewhere, you might look at Greenland and just see a strategic asset, a giant, unsinkable aircraft carrier, a perfect spot for surveillance, a piece on the board.
But that view just completely ignores the fundamental truth. For the people who actually live there, it is simply and profoundly home.
This isn't some empty expanse of ice. It's a nation of 56,000 people. Most of them are Inuit, and they have their own vibrant culture, their own government, their own hopes for the future, and this incredibly deep connection to the land and the sea that goes back centuries.
And they have made their position crystal clear. In a pretty rare moment of total unity, every single party in Greenland's parliament got together and released this powerful statement. It's not just about policy. It's a declaration of identity, a deep desire for self-determination.
So what does Greenland actually want? Well, we don't have to guess. They've actually published their own official strategy for the future, and the title really says it all.
Nothing about us without us. It's not just a catchy slogan. It is the absolute core of their entire foreign policy. It's them telling the world, hey, if you're going to talk about our future, we demand a seat at that table. They're making it clear they are not going to be some passive pawn in another country's game.
And their whole strategy is built on these really clear values: a commitment to democracy, a desire to keep the Arctic a peaceful, low-tension region, and most importantly, a focus on making life better for their own people. This isn't some vague wish list. It's the foundation for how they plan to deal with the rest of the world.
So here's their game plan. They're working to expand trade, build stronger relationships with their North American neighbors like Canada and the US, and they're taking a lead role in things like the Arctic Council. The endgame here? To build their own self-sustaining economy that can secure their independence for good. They're actively building their own future, on their own terms.
So what's the big takeaway when you put all this together? Well, what's fascinating is that both the tough geopolitical analysis and Greenland's own vision for itself, they actually point to the exact same conclusion.
That old way of thinking in terms of force and ownership and telling people what to do, that's a losing strategy. The winning play, the only play that's going to work, is all about partnership, cooperation, respect, and finding ways for everyone to benefit. It's a massive shift from thinking about domination to thinking about collaboration.
There's this concept in geopolitics called a force multiplier, and it's this idea that treating Greenland as an equal partner isn't just the nice thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. In today's world, trust and legitimacy are huge sources of power. Sometimes they're even more powerful than military might. And when you break that trust, you actually make yourself weaker, not stronger.
Which leaves us with one last question to think about. For decades, the big powers have looked at Greenland and seen a valuable piece on the chessboard, something to be moved and controlled for their own advantage. But Greenland is sending a very, very clear message. They're not a piece to be moved. They're a player, with their own strategy, making their own moves.